and I quote, "I'll be there in a minute. Give me a second."
Time is relative, folks. Time is relative.
Yes. So, hey, cheers to everybody in the chat.
They're a division rival. I don't care how many wins they get. Screw them.
That wasn't the take I was expecting to hear.
I want to gush over watching live Chris Tanev.
I think that we completely underestimate the skill it takes to play defense.
One highlight or several highlights does not a Calder trophy make.
I'm stepping in here. I'm going to be the crotchety old man here. They need to learn patience. They need to understand the tension and everything and the drama.
How dare! Look at this! How is McDavid not getting a penalty?
You guys need to calm down with this, okay? You guys need to calm down with it.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the new season of the Shifts and Pucks of hockey seasons here, NHL hockey season here. Welcome to the Shifts and Pucks podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at Shifts and Pucks, Facebook.com Shifts and Pucks, YouTube.com Shifts and Pucks, Twitch.com Shifts and Pucks. Subscribe wherever you get your audio, as well as on the Area 51 Sports Network. And everyone, let's just all get together. Welcome to opening night. Let's all get together. Let's just all have a great season, okay? Puck drop!
Oh, that was cringe.
Oh, ESPN.
Yes, that was very, I admire the effort. Good effort. Don't ever do that again.
This is not the Super Bowl. We don't need ref commentary at the start of the game.
Well, I don't, I
don't mind it. It just was so awkward.
Yeah, you could. It would just felt like the refs were even felt awkward. Like,
poor Chris Rooney, honestly.
Yeah.
Like Sean said in our group chat, it should have been Wes McCauley.
Oh yeah, it needed to be old Wes. Come on.
Or Tyler, who's not here, he would have done a good job at that too.
Oh, could you imagine telling Tyler that he had to do that?
He would have done it.
The death stare he would have given you, though.
He would have given you a death stare, but he would have done it. Devin would have told you to fuck off, but Tyler would have done it.
Tyler would have been like, I don't know, guys.
No. Devin would have embraced it and then dropped an F-bomb on national TV.
This is how you're right. Actually, that's a good point. Maybe I'll do it the way Devin would have done it. Look, boys, you get fucking going and you just start this fucking season right now. Let's fucking go, okay? Let's fucking go. Have
Every
a great
player's favorite phrase, let's fucking go.
All right. So hello. So we say hello to Chris. Hello, Chris.
Hello.
Chris is on vacation here. So joining us.
Currently in West Kelowna, but we'll be flying to Las Vegas in T-minus 26 hours.
Fun. And Sean, who did the new intro. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks, Kev. Two things. First off, happy belated birthday to Chris.
Yes.
Thank you.
His birthday was on Monday. And also to the absentee Devin.
Oh, it's his birthday today.
Yes. Happy birthday to him as well.
Yes.
Instead of being on here with us, he's probably a couple drinks deep by now.
Fair enough. There's 3 October babies in this group. But anyway, just so the schedule, we'll go through the schedule here. So tonight, Canucks pregame, Canucks opening again. Seems like a traditional opening game against the Edmonton Oilers. So this is going to be Canucks focused. Tomorrow, the Flames open their season against the Stanley Cup champion Colorado Avalanche. It is Nazem Kadri facing his old team. We'll talk Flames more tomorrow. This will be Canuck focused as, of course, they start against the Oilers. Feels like, I would say it's a traditional game. Feels like a little bit of a traditional start.
It's been, 4 years in a row now?
Yeah. So it feels like they start on Sportsnet, starts with Toronto, Montreal, and Vancouver, Edmonton. That's the doubleheader. That's the way it's been. I mean, it's fine. So let's go to the let's just do the lineup. What's looking on here on the lineup for the Canucks tonight? That's where we'll start. Oops. As it looks, it's Miller is going to center a line with. Hang on here.
Someone
I
pull
believe-
up Batch's Twitter feed.
I'm doing
I
that right
believe
now.
Miller's centering a line with
Besser and Pearson.
Besser and Pearson. Then you've got Horvat with Garland and Podkolzin. And then there is Petey with Kuzmenko and Hoglander. And then you've got surprise of the camp, Neil Zaman centering the fourth line or splitting centering duties on the fourth line with Curtis Lazar, and you've got Dakota Joshua on the other wing.
And then on defense, you've got the returning Quinn Hughes, Luke Shen pairing. You've got OEL, who did not skate today and caused some consternation, but he's fine, with Tucker Pullman. And you've got Kyle Burrows with the newly acquired on Friday, Riley Stillman. And Thatcher Demko will get the call and goal as the Canucks begin traditional in normal times 5-game early season road trip. So I guess, let's start with Amon. He was the surprise make in camp. It allowed the Canucks to trade Jason Dickinson to the Chicago Blackhawks to acquire Riley Stillman. So he had a really good Young Stars camp. He continued to impress during the training camp, and he started on the team. And that, to me, is, lots of things get around in Canucks Twitter. But again, I think that the one thing that is happening here is we saw a little bit of competition get some fruition and be rewarded. And we see that with Neil Zaman. And we also saw that with Dakota Joshua. As I think another surprise is Will Lockwood did not make the team. And I say that as a surprise because I think a lot of people were expecting Will Lockwood to at least have a good look at the start of the season. But I think we start with some competition, and Amon and Joshua started won that out on that competition.
Yeah, well, Amon is he's not a small guy. He's 6'2". According to Hockey DB, he's about 179 pounds. I don't know how accurate that is at this point.
So
but he's got
your side, if that's accurate.
But he's got some speed, and that's in today's NHL. That's what you need. And he's he's still only 22. He didn't get signed by Colorado last year, and then the Canucks picked him up. And look, he's already worked his way onto the team, which is fantastic. When Rutherford and Alvin came on, they were talking about having to find players in different ways other than the draft. And they went out and signed Neil Zaman, and look at this. Like he's made the team out of camp. That's only one step. That's only the first step of this, but it's very encouraging, and that's what we want to see from younger players that the Canucks are bringing in, regardless of where how they've been acquired, whether it's draft, trade, free agency through NCAA or Europe. Because the other big surprise coming out of the camp, he didn't make the team, but I think he's essentially he might be the first call up. I think he would have made the team if Besser didn't come back so quickly from his injury. Is Linus Karlsson, and I didn't get a chance to say this last week, but this is something that Heidi brought up, so that she remembers how to say it's Linus. It rhymes with penis.
and that the European pronunciation of it.
Yeah, but yeah, so it's Linus Karlsson was someone who really impressed it during. He got a long look. I think he will be one of the top call up options going into this season with especially when it comes to look in a top 9 role on the wing for the Canucks, if and when it's needed.
He'll be competing with Phil Di Giuseppe, though, for that first call-up, because
Di Giuseppe, I think, will be more of like a fourth line, like call-up when he's healthy. Because
that's the unfortunate thing for him, is because he had another good camp just like last season, but just like last time, gets injured at the wrong time.
There's a lot you can do with Karlsson. He can play he can play anywhere on that top line. He's got a lot of skill. There's a lot of dynamic to him. I really, really have been impressed with Linus Karlsson since he started the Young Stars camp. I expect that he's going to create some chemistry, though, with Arshdeep Bains and Abbotsford as well. I think this is a guy who you'll hear a lot from as the season goes on, for sure. But the acquisition of Riley Stillman, you have, of course, so there's the 3 key injuries here. Ilya Mikheyev still out. Tyler Myers is about 2 to 4 weeks, they're saying, and then as well, Travis Dermott injured as well. So you bring in Riley Stillman. How much is this just that was it important to add a depth defenseman? And how much of this was, and maybe this might blend in what we kind of are expecting tonight. That Abbotsford game was a bit of a rougher game. There was the Niemelainen hit that caused some controversy on Pettersson, and how there was some conversation about how the team responded to that hit. How much was this getting a guy that will fight, and how much was an important depth position?
It's not necessarily about fight. It's just making sure that there's a little bit more grit and physicality on the blue line. You look at that blue line. Pullman's big and a defensive defenseman, but I wouldn't call him an overly physical guy. We know Luke Schenn is an eraser and will throw his body around. Kyle Burrows. I'm gonna do it every time. I'm gonna pull a Devin and almost call him Alex Burrows. Like it's gonna be a thing. But Kyle Burrows is not afraid to throw his body around. But the Canucks need more of that. And I think that was a big thing about bringing Riley Stillman in. And he's a left shot defenseman who, if the Canucks blue line is fully healthy, I think you can pair him with Tyler Myers, and he can be the more stay-at-home defensive, physical defenseman, allowing the chaos draft to gallop. Which I think, when you look at it, like when I look at the Canucks blue line right now, yes, there's a lot to improve, and specifically, you want to be able to move Luke Schenn or Tucker Poolman out of that top 4. Off of a pairing with Quinn Hughes or Oliver Ekman-Larsson, because that's what is missing. A big piece that's missing for the Canucks this year. But outside of that, what they really needed was a steady, stay-at-home physical defenseman who could play with Tyler Myers, which will allow you to build a blue line that has a puck mover and a defensive defenseman on each pair, which they can do that now. So I think that was. I know a lot of people looked at that as that trade as a lot of it was a cap dump.
And while it is partially that, it's not the only reason why they made it. Yeah,
they could have completely done that trade with acquiring just a sort of an AHL body and then completely remove the 2.6 that Dickinson was making on the cap, as opposed to acquiring an NHL body. And I think it is. That when I look at that and I look at the makeup of the blue line outside of upgrading the top 4 side on the right hand side, adding a physical natural left side defenseman, I think made a lot of sense.
Would it be fair to categorize this as a tidy piece of business?
I mean, I don't like giving up a second round pick.
Yeah, but at the same time, that's kind of the price of doing these transactions where you need to free up cap space when you're a cap strained team.
When I look at that, I understand the price point, and I don't think it was an overpay. The issue is, again, the Canucks bleeding cap draft picks when they aren't finding ways to acquire them elsewhere.
Yeah.
That's again an issue. But I like this. I like Stillman as a player. I think he adds something that was missing on that blue line. But yeah, I think it was one of those trades that you kind of just go, okay, I understand it. The price kind of sucks. So only because of the lack of excess draft picks. If the Canucks were in a position where they had excess draft picks, you'd look at that and go, yes, that is a tidy piece of business. But because they don't, that's when that's the only issue with it I have.
That's fair.
Yeah, just looking at the draft picks here for the Canucks next season here, they've got
Well, it was 2024, right?
2024 one, right? Yeah, so you got six. You still have six picks. It's not awful, but you don't have a lot of picks. You're not blessed with an abundance of picks. I wouldn't call it a tidy piece of business either. But I mean, you still, I think it was almost, I would argue it was in some ways almost a somewhat necessary piece of business. And, I think you had Neil Zaman just from the positive side of this, because, that's the way I'm going to try to look at this. Neil Zaman pushed his way on the lineup. You had Carlson make an impression. Dakota Joshua, I think, can do a lot of things differently than what Jason Dickinson can do at a cheaper rate. And Jason Dickinson, let's just be honest, and he wasn't a fit in Vancouver. The
success that he found in Dallas was not here in Vancouver.
Nope. He had the coaching change. He had the expectations come in, and it just didn't work.
Would it be fair to compare it to almost an Louis Eriksson-esque curse of like, showed promise at the previous team, we get him thinking we're going to get that, and then
I don't think with Dickinson, I don't think he necessarily was a disappointment. It just there was other players like coming into camp. They had other players play well enough that he became expendable. I think a lot of people were expecting a bit of a bounce back season from Dickinson this year. I still expect a bounce back season from him in Chicago, but he just, I don't think he ever found his legs in Vancouver. Found his role in Vancouver, because he was. I think in what would have been the fourth line, I think he would have been fine in this upcoming season and with the Canucks, but they were able to find a way to gain 1.3 on the cap for this season and next, while acquiring another good player. So I think an NHL defenseman. So I think it was just they were looking to see what they could do, and he was someone who they felt was expendable.
And with the move and that being necessary for cap reasons and whatnot, I want to congratulate the Canucks for getting the perfect amount of $0 remaining as far as like wiggle room up to the cap. Like I think the Maple Leafs had like $14 and a couple other teams were like under 100. Or it was 4.
They were 4.
The Canucks literally 0. And I believe a couple of reporters said that was like the first time in NHL history in the cap era that's happened. So
yes, it's the first time in the cap era that a team who was in going into LTIR were able to max out the long-term injury reserve
down to the penny.
I can't. I don't know what the right terminology is, but I'm gonna say bonus, but I don't. I know that's not the right term. Or so because with they had with Philip Di Giuseppe injured, and you've got Michael Furland. So those two were the only ones on LTIR, and they were able to max it out. I believe they put. There's some. The cap is so complicated.
There's a reason why team have capologists in their staffs now.
Yes. So, but I want to say, Chris, it's like you hold Lawrence Gilman in high regard, but Emily Castonguay, I think just outdid him just a little bit.
Out Gilman.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was holding in high regard due to his Canucks past and how well he was able to orchestrate that during the Gillis era. But yeah, clearly there's a bias there.
Yeah, well, good on them for sure. And so there we are at. There was one more move. They did bring up Sheldon Drives for the paper move that was Danila Klimovich. He's back in Abbotsford, so that was the other thing as well. Maybe let's go here because I think this is the time of year where we have our predictions, and this is sort of everyone is kind of making their predictions. So I'm gonna ask: do the Canucks make the playoffs?
Yes.
And where do they finish?
Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'll just add that. Where do they finish?
I have them fourth in the Pacific. Yeah, I have them fourth in the Pacific behind the Oilers, Flames, and Kings. I think the Golden Knights fall off. I don't think they will get the goaltending that they're wanting from Logan Thompson. And I think that blue line. I don't think that blue line in Vegas is going to be able to do enough to make up for the goaltending. So yeah, I've got the Canucks making the playoffs as a wild card team.
Not to I guess piggyback off of Sean, but I would agree as far as that placement. I do say they squeak in, and it is as a wild card. If Sean has them as like would that be the first or second wild card spot that you would pencil them in at?
I didn't go that deep. I just was looking.
Okay, fair enough. But yeah, definitely a wild card spot. I was going to say just maybe be the last team and squeak in with like 2 points.
It could be that because I think the wild card is going to be one hell of a race in the West. Because the way I look
there's
at
a whole lot of middle teams that in the Central and Pacific that are all fighting for 2 spots.
Yeah, you've got the Canucks,
potentially 3 spots.
You got the Canucks and Golden Knights in the Pacific. I wouldn't be surprised if the Kings kind of fall into that, depending on how good how much their young players step up,
and whether guys like Fiala can make a difference.
If the young players step up and that blue line is as good as we all kind of think it could be now, which is a complete 180 from where I was at on the Kings with their blue line last preseason. I will say that they proved me wrong on that one.
Definitely outperformed, yeah.
And then you've got, and then you have the Preds, Stars, and Wild in the Central that I think are all going to be in the mix as well. Maybe the Jets. I don't know what to expect from Winnipeg this year. It feels like that locker room has a major divide in it, reminiscent of the Flames a couple of years ago, where you've got an aging captain and a younger, not super young core, but a younger core that wants to take over. And I feel like that might be an issue that will hold them back this year. But
the X factor with the Jets is definitely whether Bones can basically get that team to gel as much as they need to be successful.
And play a proper defensive system, because if they can, then Hellebuck can drag them into the playoffs.
Yeah, he's still got the skill despite his age.
But I honestly don't think that it'll happen. I think this might be a 2 to 3 year project for Bones. But I look at the Predators. I don't think I look at that and I see multiple regression candidates on the Predators. Duchesne, Johansson, Tanner Jeannot, all I think are going to regress.
Oh, I'm going to have to disagree. I will be disagreeing with you, but on that. But just go ahead.
With Jeannot, right?
No, with
because
Nashville.
he drafted him.
No, with Nashville, I do not see a regression on that team at all.
Oh, I look at the look. Somehow I'm the statistical dude on this podcast, and I look
Even
at
though you don't really identify as that guy, you just happen to be the guy that leans most into it out of us.
I look at that, and they're Duchesne, both Duchesne and Johansson are both candidates for regression on that team. Yes, they've added Nino Niederreiter, but I just don't. I'm not sold on them. But the Stars are a bit of a. I don't know what to expect from the Stars. Do we see a very slow start from Jason Robertson? I think that's expected. Missing all of camp. What is Ottinger? What we saw in the Flames series, or is he more an average goaltender? I think he can be what he was in the Flames series, but I think it's not going to be as quick a jump up to there as many people are expecting. And then the Wild, they lost Fiala. Who's stepping up? That's my question. Who's stepping up to create that offense? Because there's also a massive regression candidate on that team in Ryan Hartman. Like, he scored more goals than his career high in points last year. Like, that is someone who I expect to regress a lot.
What about the Rossi kid? Is he
Marco Rossi? He's a rookie. Like, it's going to be.
But is he a goal scorer? Is more so what I was asking.
I think he's more of a playmaker, but I just don't. I'm not so. And then they lost. I'm also we're at the point with Marc-Andre Fleury. Is he going to Mike Smith it? Are the hips going to fall apart? That's my big question with the Wild. I know that a lot of people are very high on them. I just look at that and I go, there's too many questions.
I'm not high on the Wild at all.
So I look at the Preds, the Stars, and the Wild, along with the Canucks and Golden Knights, as being the 5 teams looking for 2 to 3 spots.
Yeah, it's going to be a battle between the Central and the Pacific as far as who gets that extra third team.
Yeah, for me, I have okay, so I think the Oilers. I have the Oilers winning the Pacific. I think they will be the regular season champions. I think the Flames will. We'll talk about the Flames tomorrow, but I actually expect a very slow. I would not be surprised if it's a slow start for the Flames to come off. I think this is a team that will get into that will build. I actually don't have the Kings in the playoffs. I have the Knights in the playoffs, and I have the Avs, Preds, Stars for sure in the playoffs. I think the Preds are going to be better than a lot of people think. I think the teams that I'm curious about, the one that we didn't talk about there, you didn't talk about, Sean, was St. Louis, and I really wonder about what's going to happen there. You've got, one of the storylines coming into Vancouver this year is Bo Horvat doesn't come in with a contract as the captain. Ryan O'Reilly doesn't come in with a contract, and they signed Robert Thomas and Jordan Kyrou, 2 huge deals. You talk about a potential locker room explosion, and you've got a goaltender in Jordan Binnington that he can be good on one night, but on the other night, he may want to run out and fight a guy on a bench. You don't know what you're going to get from Jordan Binnington. The loss of Ville Husso, I think, is massive for St. Louis. I don't know where I'm at with St. Louis. That is the one team that I'm curious about. But I do have the Golden Knights in the playoffs. I think the Golden Knights will sneak in, but I don't have the Kings in, and I unfortunately right now with that blue line and the Canucks, I can't put them in right now. I think that they battle. I think they're in it to the last minute, but I don't think they get in. Unfortunately, that's
The way
kind
I
of where
look
I'm
at
at.
it with the Canucks is they've got the X factor in Demko.
Yeah, now a lot of people who had him picked who picked him last night. Did Anthony Stewart or was it Elliot Friedman that
It
picked
wasn't
him?
Anthony Stewart.
No, Stewart picked Jack Campbell as the Vezina Trophy winner, which
No, yeah,
fascinating.
Friedman in 32 Thoughts
Oh.
actually said that he's picking Demko this year for Vezina. So
Yeah, but the whole thing with Friedman though, he's got so many freaking rules. He
Yeah,
doesn't want to pick favorites, so
Yeah.
he's taking dark horses.
yeah, but no, they live left of Florida, so can't pick them, and then right of that. Yeah, I can't. Yeah, it was but
I have St. Louis finishing second. I think they are set up to be good this year. Yeah, they've got Tarasenko and O'Reilly without contracts going into next season. But
and Tarasenko has not rescinded that trade request, by the way. That's another issue in that lineup.
it didn't bug them last year.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm not sold on St. Louis. I'm not as sold as everyone else is on St. Louis.
To be honest, I think outside of Colorado, the rest of the Central, I think depending on how you look at it, I think you can make an argument for all of them to make the playoff. Like outside of the Bedard Bowl too.
Yeah,
honestly. And then you've got Winnipeg, I feel like in like purgatory between the two, honestly.
and I guess you could also maybe put San Jose in there as well.
San Jose is weird because they've got some really good players, but
they're clearly in a transitional funk right now.
Yeah, that blue line isn't good. Like they traded away Burns. Carlson's still Carlson, but Vlasic's not the player he was. Mario Ferraro is a good, serviceable, sort of like I would say 3 to 5 defenseman. But after that, you got Matthew Benning, Radim Simek, Jacob Magna, and Scott Harrington to fill out the rest of the other 4 spots, and like it's just it. And then Capo Kakinen and James Reimer in net, and they've got no depth up front. They've got Hurdle, who's good, Logan Couture, who's good. The player to watch this season for outside of Chychrun in Arizona, the player to watch this season for a potential trade is Timo Meyer. He's an RFA with ARB rights going into next season, and his qualifying offer is at $10 million, I believe.
That's pricey.
So, just to answer the question here, Leonard will not play this season. I think they've already announced that.
They've already announced that. Yeah,
he's
for the season, but I think he's talking about for his career, not necessarily.
I would be very surprised if he plays again.
I wouldn't want to speculate one way or the other. I hope for the best, but I wouldn't want to speculate on that.
Yeah. So, but yeah, with San Jose, I think they're going to be a dark horse in the Bedard Bowl, I think. And I'd rather see Bedard in San Jose than Arizona, if that makes any sense. But but back to the Central. I think after Colorado, I think you can make an argument for all. You go from Minnesota, Nashville, St. Louis, all 3 of those. I think you can make an argument for all 3 of those to finish second.
Well, even
and the Stars.
But even Colorado, you can ask. I mean, I think we give them a pass because of the chance, but the loss of Kadri, I think, who's going to step into that second line role, and the loss of Darcy Kemper and their goaltending. I mean, I think everyone is high on Alexander Gorgiev, but he's never been a number one in this league, and now he's a number one on a team with high expectations. I think that's interesting. So I still would have some questions about Colorado. They're still the favorite in the West. There's no question about it. They're my Stanley Cup finalist.
Look at that blue line. Look at that blue line.
Cale Makar is the best hockey player in the world right now.
And then you still have
Bowen Byram is basically Cale Makar light, and to have those two guys on the same defense core, goddamn.
Let alone Devon Taves, like it's just
they
don't need lights out goaltending. Like they would have gone a lot farther in the bubble playoffs had they not gone down to their fourth or fifth string goaltender.
Yeah,
they're named up after Frank Hughes.
Yeah, like it's.
And they didn't get lights out goaltending in the playoffs last year. Not really. I mean, they got solid goaltending, but it wasn't like, oh my gosh, it wasn't.
They also didn't need it to be lights out goaltending because their D core is that good.
Yeah. When you can run out of the top six, like just their right side is just it. Makar is your number one. I mean, at this point, Josh Manson's your number two. Eric Johnson's your number three. And then you've got on the left side, Gerard, Devon Taves, and Bowen Byram. Like, come on.
Yeah, it's low. I agree with you, it's loaded. But there is, like, if you're, there are a couple questions on that team, and they're still a favorite. They're still my favorite to win. They're my favorite to repeat as Stanley Cup champions. I mean, I'm not playing on any
first
rules,
round pick. They still have their first round picks for this year and next year, 23 and 24, as draft capital that they can use to acquire a second line center if needed.
Yeah, they're fine, and I'm not worried about them. But I mean, there are questions you can ask questions about them. To the Oilers here, let's just touch on them here, and then we'll get onto a little bit of some of the other stuff here. So Jesse Pujärvi is getting another opportunity, quite frankly. I think that this Jesse Pujärvi, hearing Graham yesterday or last week, I found it interesting. He called him frustrating. You got, the stats folks who love Jesse Pujärvi and will say that you don't trade Jesse Pujärvi. He's all of those things. And then you get some other people who find him a very frustrating player to watch. And he's getting a chance to play with Connor McDavid again tonight, and he's with McDavid and Kane. I think that's one of the two most fascinating questions with the Oilers is the whole Pujärvi, Yamamoto, and if they can actually skate 20 players in the lineup tonight, because that's another question. And again, everyone is sold on Jack Campbell. I'm not sold that was the right. I'm not sold on their goaltending. I still think that is a question coming into this, but they're set up really well. To me, those are the two questions. But I have them winning the Pacific Division in the regular season. I would put them as the favorites.
Yeah, for me, I personally have Colorado, Edmonton as like the top two teams for their divisions. And then as far as the conference, I'll throw in Calgary. Those three teams are the only ones you can write with ink. Everyone else is in pencil right now because it's unpredictable as far as like whether things go as well as teams want it to, or whether teams will falter and come across like obstacles that they weren't necessarily expecting and maybe falter. So yeah, I think the Canucks will sneak in, but St. Louis I think is in there. LA I think will sneak in. Like Sean, I also don't really have faith that Vegas's goaltending and defense can get them in. They might be able to score, but I just don't see the defense being there. Nashville, yes, and I think Dallas is kind of just as much of a question mark as the Canucks are. They could squeak in, but they also might not. Hard to say.
Dallas is such a wild card because of not having Jason Robertson in to start camp. We all know what that does to players. That's going to be a very slow start for him. And then you add in, you got a new coach. And again, I know everyone was gushing about Jake Ottinger, but we've seen goalies have hot streaks in the past in playoffs. Can he be a true number one for this team? I think he will be. I just don't think it's going to be this year. I think there will be rough patches, and he's going to continue to show the promise, but I just don't know if they've got the everything else in front of him that can hold him there. This is now Miro Heiskanen's blue line.
Yep.
I do think we probably see a step from him, but yeah, I don't know. I just don't see. They're a team that will be very that whole sense outside of Colorado, and I still think St. Louis is a step above. I understand where you're coming from, Kev, but I still think they're a step above. But Minnesota, Dallas, Nashville, I think all three of them have questions.
Yeah, that's totally fair. It's interesting. It's really like we started with predictions, and there's going to be surprises and disappointments. One team we didn't talk about, I think, is going to be interesting in the Pacific. I wonder what the Kraken are going to do. I think they're a long way from something, but they are a better team this year. I think
they're similar. They're sort of like the Winnipeg of the Pacific. They're not going to be. I think they'll be a step ahead of San Jose, but
they're not in the Bedard Bowl. I don't think.
No, they won't. I don't think they'll be in the Bedard Bowl because I think they're going to have a little more offense this year. I still don't. I don't like that blue line. I think that blue line is, and Grubauer is a Vezina candidate on Colorado, but he wasn't anywhere near that. Like, I think he'll have a slight bounce back this year, but it's not going to be good enough to get them they're going to be in that purgatory. I think Anaheim, Winnipeg, and Seattle are going to be in that purgatory, sort of not good enough to be bad enough stage.
Yeah, I agree. They're kind of in that mushy kind of bottom third. Definitely not crappy enough to totally bottom out, but at the same time, definitely not playoff caliber either.
You suck. You just don't suck enough. Well, Chris has to pick up his wife from work.
I got to run. Unfortunately, I can't stay for the whole show tonight.
But it's good to have you, and have fun in Vegas. And what happens in Vegas, you put on Twitter, right? That. That's
I mean, I'll probably let some details slip, but maybe I'll give you guys a little bit of a recap next week.
Sounds good.
I have one request though, Chris.
Sure.
$20 on black.
$20 on black. All right. Do I have to share the winnings with you if I win? But yeah, last time I went down in 2018, I didn't do any gambling at all, more so due to a financial situation back then. But this time, I'm actually going to do a little bit of gambling. We'll see how it goes. It's either going to go or it's going to be like complete shit. We'll see.
Yeah. Have fun, Chris.
Yeah,
have fun.
All right. See you guys. Bye.
Bye. All right. So Chris gone. Anything else with the Canucks we need to talk about?
I would say one surprise is that I don't think we're seeing Jack Rathbone in the top six to start the season. I think I wasn't expecting. I think I was expecting him, especially now that Myers is out. I was expecting to be in the top six, but maybe he still needs a little bit more AHL seasoning.
Yeah, he doesn't play the right side, which is, you've got ultimately you'll have Myers and Dermott there, you have Burrows there, you have Pullman there. I think we'll see Rathbone at some point this season, but
Yeah.
yeah, it was a bit of a surprise that he wasn't there. Um, yeah, so because I like him. And I guess we'll see. I don't know. I still think we're going to end up with a Quinn Hughes OEL pairing at some point during the season. I do think we're going to see Quinn Hughes on the right side at some point. I can't see them. They tried it at camp. I know that some people are like it doesn't work, but I don't know.
It's not that pair doesn't work. It's the depth afterwards.
Right, but now that you have Riley Stillman, I wonder if that makes it a little bit easier to at least explore that option a little bit more, right? Because you now added a little bit more of that depth. And I think Rathbone is there. Just needs a little bit more work. And I mean, we see injuries that happen, right? And that's always I mean, we've already seen injuries. There could be other injuries as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see the Quinn Hughes OEL pairing there at some point. I guess in terms of goal, on this 5-game trip, do we see Spencer Martin at some point?
Yes.
I guess he gets one game.
There is, I believe there is a back-to-back, and we will see him because of that. Whether it's on one of the back-to-backs or it's one of the games surrounding it. But I believe there is a back-to-back, and we will see Spencer Martin in that.
Yeah. Because that will be the other question is, I mean, they've already talked about reducing the load for Thatcher Gemco this year. So we're going to have to see a lot more of Spencer Martin, and they'll want to get that at some point early in the year. And you've got this month, so you've got the Oilers tonight, and then you got the Oilers and Philly, Washington, Columbus. I suspect you get Martin in that one of those back-to-backs there, and then you finish off against Minnesota. He'll get one of those. I guess he'll get either Washington or Columbus.
I think we'll see Martin twice in October.
Yeah, because you got the back-to-back in Seattle and then at home to Pittsburgh on the 27th, 28th. So
yeah.
So
my prediction is I think we'll see him in Columbus and in Seattle.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think you'll want to get
either that or we might. I wouldn't be. The other thing is I would, actually Columbus and Seattle, because the only one the other way I would do it is maybe give him the afternoon game in Philadelphia on Saturday. But I think you want to get Demko in a rhythm.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's the best way to do it, because if you give him the Columbus game, then Demko's got 2 days off between Edmonton and Philly, a day off between Philly and Washington, 2 days off between Washington and Minnesota, and then same thing with if you give Martin the start in Seattle, that gives Demko 3 days off between a couple of home games versus Carolina and versus Pittsburgh.
Yeah, and a couple of really highly, not that Seattle isn't highly skilled, but Carolina and Pittsburgh will be in intense games, a higher level of intensity games that you want to give Demko that rest for sure. And then
we have some breaking news.
Oh, breaking news!
Yeah, as per Elliot Friedman, both Warren Fogle and Kyler Yamamoto are out tonight, so the Edmonton Oilers are only dressing 17 skaters.
Well, I mean, they basically sit someone for Connor McDavid anyway, so it doesn't. Yeah,
Yeah, whoever's on like the quote unquote fourth line is all alone tonight.
yeah, yeah. So okay, well that's interesting news out of Edmonton for sure. Let's touch on some other things that were going on here. Do we want to start in Buffalo, or do we want to go to Hockey Canada?
Oh,
Let
okay.
let's
Let's start with Hockey Canada because I think the best way to say it. Just give me 1 second here. Is that it's about fucking time, and this is only the start. You cannot tell me that this should have happened. This was the right time to do this. This should have happened before they lost all the sponsors. This should have happened way back in the summer when this first came out. The one thing I just want to point out is yes, firing someone with cause requires a lot of paperwork and a paperwork trail. I don't think there was any way that they could have done that with Scott Smith, and he was not leaving. So they
nope.
found so before you yell at Hockey Canada for severancing him out, that's what they had to do. That's what they had to do. But when it should have happened a lot sooner. But it's also only the start because they now have to replace a whole board plus the CEO or whatever they want to, the head of Hockey Canada, and they have to fix everything that was wrong with the organization and fix the now completely broken trust that Hockey Canada has lost with the general public. So this is just the beginning. It's the right move. But it came too late. But yeah.
So yeah, just to touch on the severance part, I'm just going to read what Rick Westhead tweeted here earlier this afternoon. Hockey Canada told me today its outgoing board and CEO Scott Smith reached a mutual agreement for his departure on Tuesday. Hockey Canada said Smith's separation was made in compliance with applicable law and his written employment agreement, and it would be inappropriate to share details. I also asked Hockey Canada whether Scott Smith's leadership team, which included CFO Blair Cairo, VP Hockey Operations and National Teams Scott Salmon, VP Member Engagement Darren Kosar, will remain employed. A spokesman said that will be up to HC's new CEO to decide. So they still, there's a lot of legal work and there's a lot of other things going on here that we're not lawyer enough to explain or be with. And this should have happened. You're right. It should have happened a long time ago. The fact that the Andrea Skinner resignation happened as the Blue Jays were collapsing, Blue Jays were collapsing on Saturday. This is going to be this has to be a really long process of change here. Like there has to be some thought into putting who we put in charge of Hockey Canada, what is the function of Hockey Canada, and what everything looks like going forward. This is not just about just putting someone in their interim. There has to be a lot of thought. And yeah, it was way too long. It took way too long for this to happen. There's still a lot of questions. There's still a lot of people that I think a lot of people will be wondering about, and staff and all of that. So I think this is just the beginning of the fallout, and we're going to see this will be an interesting year for Hockey Canada. And it's not like the sponsors went back and started calling to Hockey Canada and said we're back in. I think a lot of people are going to wait and see from what Hockey Canada is going to do going forward before they step back in and support Hockey Canada. So that's kind of where I'm at. Yeah, As far as any severances or anything like that, unless you're a lawyer, hard for you to comment on.
Yeah.
Um,
But yeah, it's the start. Hopefully, this is the start of changes that were desperately needed.
yeah, I agree. And so the Buffalo Sabres had a interesting day. There was a lot of contracts that were given this year for players that had really good 1-year seasons.
Hey, Kev, just for a second before we continue on,
sure.
Tyler's going to be very angry with your headroom here.
Oh,
and
yeah.
you need to
it
fix
slipped
your.
off.
There we go.
It slipped. I slipped.
There we
back
go.
over.
That's better. Okay, now you can continue.
Oh, okay. I'll go back there. It's not good. Good. Okay. The Buffalo Sabre. There was a lot of contracts. I mean, we talked a little bit about Robert Thomas and Jordan Kyrou earlier. There was a lot of contracts. Tage Thompson, a lot of players that got young players that got paid for breakout years, but not proven anything. The Sabres took this one step further. They signed a player who played 50 games in the National Hockey League, has yet to score his first National Hockey League goal, to a 7-year, $30 million deal, and that's Matthias Samuelsson. It's a $4.285 million deal. I looks a little all. I kind of was when I saw it. I joked. I mean, can you imagine what they're going to give Owen Power? My gosh, he's going to get 14 years. But listening to Merrick and Friedman this morning, they kind of it's a gamble on both sides. It's a gamble for the Sabres. It's a gamble for Samuelsson as well. But you're going to have to pay Rasmus Dahlin soon. You're going to pay Owen Power. I guess from their perspective, they want to ink everybody in and see where everybody is at. And
the 2024 offseason for Buffalo could be ridiculous because they owe Rasmus Dahlin's has 2 more years on his contract at $6 million. Owen Power has 2 more years left on his ELC. Both of them are going to need new contracts. Let alone if Casey Middlestat can figure it out, he'll need a new contract. Peyton Krebs is going to need a new contract. It's they're literally. Yeah, I understand their thought process. That is a swing for the fences type of hoping that you have a home run deal for someone who can be a top 4 defenseman when he's 22, he played 12 games in 2020, 2021, and then 42 games last year. I think the closest comparable that you can look at is Oscar Klefbom when the Oilers signed him to his long-term deal. But he at least scored a goal in the NHL before they signed him. Multiple, actually.
yeah.
That's quite the quite the attempt at a Grand Slam sort of contract that is good for the team.
Well, and it's a fascinating conversation because you have Matthias Samuelsson who got this without a goal, and then we've talked about Jason Robertson, and we talked about Jake Ottinger in Dallas, and they had to grind with Tom Gaglardi about getting the contracts that they had. So, and because Gaglardi doesn't believe that you should give a Matthias Samuelsson 7 years and $30 million before scoring his first goal. They believe that he should earn it. So it's a really fascinating situation, and it's one of the things I think that will be interesting this year is all of these young stars that got these contracts, like Tage Thompson, even in Buffalo, and Robert Thomas and Jordan Kyrou. I'm not saying that they're going to be bad players, but those are kind of the things that I wonder if they step back. There's a step back, or it's fascinating to me to see where they're going to be at. That's going to be an interesting question this year with a lot of those contracts, because it's going to be tough. Going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to me.
Yeah. Once you set that precedent, it's hard to come back from it.
Yeah.
So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with players such as, well, even Dylan Cousins needs a new contract after this season. They only signed Victor Olofsson to 2 years. Yeah, let alone who else do they have on? You got Jack Quinn, who's on the ELC. It's just, I look at all that and go, yeah, it's just, I feel like it's a swing, and it's a very, very tough one for me to think is going to work out for the Sabres.
It's going to be fascinating for sure.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be fascinating, and the Eastern Conference. I mean, I don't know if the Buffalo is going to be in the Bedard Bowl. I kind of feel that they're in the San Jose. Yeah, I think they're in the San Jose part. I don't know in the East who's going to be in the Bedard Bowl. I don't think Philly's going to be in the Bedard Bowl.
I think they will be, but not not by choice.
Well, Tort. Well, then it's going to be fun to listen to Torts all year.
Oh,
that will be fascinating.
I think the Bedard Bowl in the East is going to be Flyers and Canadians.
Yeah, I think Canadians will be. Yeah, you're right. The Canadians will probably. They have the best chance to be in the Bedard Bowl. We could quickly touch on the Eastern playoffs here. Just going to be interesting. I think the one team that everybody is hyped up about is Ottawa, and I don't know, where are you at with Ottawa? I
think they make it. I think they make the playoffs.
I don't.
But that's at the expense of every wild card team in the Metropolitan.
It's going to be that Metropolitan division is going to be tough. Because you got Carolina.
Well, you look at the Capitals. I think they're old, and I don't think they make the playoffs. I don't think the Devils take this. I don't think the Devils and the Islanders take the steps that they're looking for. Blue Jackets as well. And then I look at the Flyer. We already talked about the Flyers. Penguins, Rangers, and Hurricanes all make it, I think. And then you look at the Atlantic, and you've got the Red Wings, Senators, and Sabres, who all have some key pieces that I think are going to take steps this year. And then you've got the Bruins, who don't have McAvoy to start the season, don't have Marchand to start the season. It's going to be huge for them. So and the Panthers, I think the Panthers take a step back.
Not a step out of the playoffs, though.
No, I still think they make the playoffs. I still think they finish third in the division, but I think we're going to see two wild card teams out of the Atlantic.
Really, I'm actually going the other way on that, but
because I think the Bruins will tread water enough to make the playoffs, and I think the Senators make the playoffs, and they will be the two wild card teams.
Okay. I have New Jersey making the playoffs, actually. You're looking at me like I'm dumbfounded, but I think New Jersey gets in.
Who's stopping pucks?
That's a good
question, right? Yes,
it's a great question. But I think Mackenzie Blackwood with that blue line, not Colorado-esque, but they have a solid blue.
Good. That blue line.
They have a better blue line than you're giving them credit for. They got Ryan Gray.
They have a better blue line than last year, but that's a very low bar.
Well, they're going to be a little bit better, and there's a lot of skill on that team. If Jack Hughes is healthy, if Mackenzie Blackwood is healthy, that's a talented team in New Jersey that just people kind of snuck under. And now, don't forget the acquisition of Andre Palat. I think that was a cute acquisition there too. So I think Jersey's going to sneak in. It's all it needs. We're only focusing on this year. We're not. This is not the 2024 prediction season, right? It's the two. So I think Jersey gets in, and I wonder if the Islanders are the ones that sneak. I wonder if the Islanders sneak in, but I don't have Ottawa in, and I just don't trust. I don't trust that Ottawa blue line yet, and I don't know about. I don't trust Detroit. I don't trust Detroit just yet.
I don't either.
I think they're next year.
The thing with Detroit is they you talk about Ottawa's blue line not trusting that blue line. Outside of Sider, who do they have anyone? Well, Sider and Roenick, I think, are your two good defensemen on there. I think I like Sherrod as a third pair D man, but they're paying him for a top four, and they're probably going to play him top four. Ole Mata's, again, sort of a 4-5 guy. And then you got Huso and Nedeljkovic and net. I
think Huso's a good goaltender, but I'm not sold on Nedeljkovic.
And then up front, I don't think they've got enough.
They have an interesting question in and of itself with Dylan Larkin coming into this season as well as a UFA.
Dylan Larkin,
and that will be a guy that I think a lot of teams will be interested in at the trade deadline.
Well, the Larkin, Bertuzzi, Pius Suter, all need new contracts this year, and they're 26 to start the season. Oscar Sundqvist as well. Adam Ernie is, if they're not in it, Ernie will be someone that the teams will be clamoring for. He is a playoff hockey player, type player. So I'm not sold on Detroit. I'm honestly not sold on my East predictions either. I could totally see it the other way, where you have Devils, Islanders, Capitals, two of those teams making it over the Senators and Bruins. But there's always one team that makes it when you don't expect them.
Yeah.
And that might be the Senators for me this year.
And that's where I'm at with the Devils. They're the team that I'm seeing as the ones that are sneaking. That's the team that I see can sneak in here and I think surprise some people. And yeah. By the way, upset in Montreal. The Canadiens beat the Leafs 4-3 in game 1.
Typical Leafs fashion.
Yeah. So things not going well in the city of Toronto. You had the Blue Jays drop a massive 7-run lead on Saturday, and then you had this today. So just the city of Toronto not happy. By the way, can I point something out here before we go? Because there was all
that losing leads in baseball seems to happen a lot.
Yeah, that too.
Just ask the Mariners.
Exactly. Yeah, they blew a 4-run lead. Yeah, exactly. All this conversation about sport, all Toronto does is choke. Didn't the Raptors win an NBA championship in 2019? Have we all forgotten that?
Kev, can you stop putting logic in front of our jokes, please?
Well, no, but the joke doesn't work if the Raptors won. And it's the people in Toronto forgot that the Raptors won. Like that's the problem. Oh, didn't the Raptors win a championship here? Like, are you forgetting all of that? Like, to me, if you're a non-Toronto fan and you're bashing Toronto about what's happened, I get it, kind of. But it's what I saw from Twitter was like the Toronto people were like, "We suck at sports. The Raptors won a championship. You don't suck at sports." Anyway.
Okay. Oh, Kev, you're defending Toronto. What's going on?
I'm not defending Toronto.
Are you okay? Are you okay, Kevin? Have you been kidnapped?
What do you mean? I'm not defending Toronto. I'm pointing out that the Raptors won a championship. It was like the whole Blue Jays, the whole Toronto's a lose. Like people forgot that. I mean, that's all. You know, I mean, as for the Blue Jays, I picked the Mariners. I'm a Mariners. Yeah, I wasn't surprised. They would have blown that lead against anybody. That's all. That's how I'll say that.
All right, this is the hockey podcast,
Yeah,
Kev.
it's the Shifts and Pucks podcast. So tomorrow we will be talking Flames. We'll get into the Flames, what's going on there. They had an eventful off season, obviously. They probably had the more eventful. Oh, wait. Let's just before we go here, let's chat about Florida because I think a lot of people are. There was a lot of people with Florida thinking that they're not going to make the playoffs. That you losing Uyghur and Huberdeau was huge, and I would be shocked. I think Florida takes a big step back. Don't get me wrong, but they're a playoff team. I mean, I wasn't happy with Matthew Tkachuk during that playoff run in his performance, but him and Barkov are going to be a really dynamic combination in Florida, and you've got Anton Lundell there. I think he's got the ability to make a step, and Mackenzie Weegar is a big loss, but they still have a pretty solid defense. If Ekblad can be healthy, Brandon Montour is a pretty good defenseman there as well. They've got some really solid goaltending. Them not making the playoffs to me is nonsense. That's a nonsense take.
Well, we can talk about that tomorrow, Kev.
Okay. Well, we'll see where everybody's at. So tomorrow, that game's at 7:30 Pacific, so we'll probably gun for 6 o'clock Mountain, 5 o'clock Pacific. We'll be live there. But how do we follow you?
I am Bearded Connect 03 on Twitter.
And then Chris is Schneidz, SCHNEIDZ, Tyler TNOBLE, Devin Gordhouse 09. I am KEVOLE, Shifts and Pucks, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. Subscribe wherever you get your audio, as well as on the Area 51 Sports Network. You just have a great season now, okay? Let's have a great season as the puck is dropped, and we will talk to you very soon. Bye for now.